Hello and welcome to this is the first tutorial in our sequence about our scrolling game in Unity that you'll be making for Christmas. Forgive my voice, I'm still trying to find it. So this tutorial will be quite short. We're just going to look at inspiration, shall we say, and game design, and how you should go about making your game at this early stage in the year. So it's a 2D scroller, or maybe it's a platformer, or maybe there's no difference between the two of those things. Basically, it's a game and it's 2D, and we're going to move the camera to the side. Some 2D games allow for free play, like Metroid and stuff, so the camera follows the character, you can walk back and forward, up and down, make your own way around. It's like sort of a sandbox kind of affair. And we're just going to have a look at a few games here. This is obviously a relatively recent game that you'll see on Android. This is Jetpack Joyride, and it's an interesting game. So we've got our 2D sprite character, and we've got this slightly fake 3D world. Obviously it's a 2D world, but we've got a floor, we've got a ceiling, and that's obviously not 3D, it's completely 2D. These characters have shadows and they're interacting with the floor below them, but it's all kind of faked because these are 2D sprites, even though they look like they've got depth. That's sort of a fake. This is a very nice type of game to make for loads of reasons. One is the character can only move in one direction. That simplifies things. You're only making basically a tube, because the character can't go up or can't go down. And there's no parallax, there's no backgrounds, we don't look out windows. Although I do believe if you play Jetpack Joyride and you get far enough, you can start to look out windows. This is a bit like Limbo, which I think I have later on. There's Limbo there, which is like a silhouette game. Limbo is, if you haven't played it, you should. It's really scary and really beautiful. And Limbo uses parallax, and maybe you'll have a little look at parallax in a minute, but it uses the idea of if you can imagine you're sitting on a train and you look out the window, the trees and bushes and anything that's beside the train at the side of the train tracks is whizzing by really, really quickly, and the mountains in the distance are moving very slowly, and that's basically parallax. It's sort of movement of objects relative to the speed and position of the viewer. So in Limbo, you're walking along here, and as you walk, the background moves very slowly as you walk along these sort of silhouette kind of forest paths. So this is a very nice type of game to make, a silhouette game. It can be very difficult though. It requires a really good level of design. Very clear shapes and really good kind of color schemes. Even though this is all black, having the right tones in the background make all the difference between it looking brilliant and looking awful. So a simpler game maybe you might think, but also very challenging. Again, there's a couple of interesting things with this still here. I want you to just notice how much space is lost at the bottom of the screen, so that the character is actually walking 1/3 the way up the screen, or maybe slightly more than that. And as we move forward, we'll come back to R-Type in a minute. Yeah, the same here. This is just I don't know, probably somebody making a game. You can see they're going to have parallax in their game, so the backgrounds move at different speeds. But again, this dark area at the bottom. Again, you got an area here at the bottom. I know this bit's being used, but most of the bottom of this screen is not used. Now this has also got parallax in it, but this is slightly different to what we see here. So there's no attempt to fake any sort of 3D. This is completely orthographic. There is no depth whatsoever. And again, if you're trying to look for simplicity, maybe simplicity is the wrong word, if you're trying to be efficient, you're going to be in a team of 4. You know, you're limited in the amount of assets you can make and the amount of sprites and animations. Not only do you have to make them, but you have to learn how to make them. So, I mean, it's a lot to do. So you have to basically pick types of game that you can succeed in. There's no point in being really ambitious and trying to make something amazing and failing. This is also an interesting type of scroller. Like, we've got again, space at the bottom that isn't used. It's got these items kind of sticking up to create maybe sort of a sense of parallax as we move past them. Also to give depth. So again, you've got these pipes coming in, trying to fake sort of the idea of 3D. We've got our 2D sprites, and quite a good looking game, but again requires a lot of design. These are rendered out from 3D software like Blender or 3D Max or Maya, and then rendered out as stills and then imported in to use in a sprite based game. This is also very similar, huge amount of detail, trying to fake 3D as well. So it's basically it's still a 2D game though. It's not a 2.5D game. We'll have a look at them in a minute. We're back to Limbo. This is a really famous game. I don't know if you've ever played it, called Fez, and it's amazing. This actually, as you look at this image here, you can't have any idea of what the game is like. The game is 3D but 2D. So you play along in 2D, and then as you turn the corner, the entire world rotates, and then you're walking along as a 2D sprite along the other side of this 3D building. So it's a 2D 3D puzzler, and it's amazing. So if you ever get a chance to play Fez, or even watch a video of it, it's amazing. Again, this is an interesting one. We've got a lot of humanoid kind of characters. Again, an attempt to make a 2.5D, or again, that's not 2.5D, it's a 2D sprite-based game, but to fake a 3D sort of feeling. And this is the ultimate attempt to fake 3D, and is made in 3D, but brought in as background images. A huge amount of detail, far more than you could ever achieve in the short amount of time that you guys will have. So don't try and make something like this. Not because you can't, you probably can, but you will run out of time. And then, there's loads of examples of games like this, which are kind of very highly stylized, very simplistic art, although if you went to try and make this, you'll probably find it's not that simple. But again, just to note, there's a whole chunk of space not being used, or at least not being utilized in any sort of way in terms of animation, or there's no parallax. So this is just the camera moving in front of the level, or the bottom of the level, and the other items in the background move to give a parallax effect. I'm sure you've all seen this before. This is Super Mario. So it's a classic sort of platformer slash 2D side scroller. No attempt to make 3D or 3D items, just a whole bunch of really cool kind of puzzles and power-ups. There are a lot of animations in this, so again, while it may be a simpler game than some, it's also deceptively complex. There's a lot of animation, and everything's very fast, so you cover a lot of ground really quickly. Coming December 2016. Again, this is an interesting platformer. This has elements of RPG in it, and again, you've got this area here at the front that the character walks on that isn't kind of utilized, isn't being used, so you kind of grayed out area. This is very like Limbo. Ross will probably talk to you about this game. It was a very interesting game. beautifully animated. Again, you might get, if we get some gameplay in a minute, you get a sense of parallax. So items in the foreground move by quite quickly. Then there's sort of a mid-ground, so the larger trees, they don't move quite as quickly as this front tree, but move quite quickly. And then there'll be fainter, smaller objects in the background that move much more slowly. And it kind of gives a sense of depth, and it's referred to as parallax. And then obviously all these dots, these are just particle effects. Unity's really good at making those sort of effects. So really, really beautiful game, but again, very deceptive in terms of game creation. There's a lot of animation, a lot of game dynamics in it, and yeah, very beautiful. And we're back to where we started. So what we want to do is you're going to have to start making decisions about what sort of style of game are you going to make. So you might think we've limited you in your choices, but in fact, the contrary. You can do anything basically inside this genre. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start in Blender. So I've already made this, and you've seen the sprite. Now I've made it in 3D. Now I could start again and make a character or make all sorts of things, but I spent a while making this guy. Not too long, about 2.5 hours. But I'm going to utilize this character in my game, so I can open up the cockpit to reveal I have not colored in the chair. But so I've made a 3D object, and that's how I'm going to generate my sprites. This particular mech, if you're interested, let me just jump to my YouTube channel here. I have uploaded, for those who are able or interested, a set of videos and a playlist on how to make that. So it's the light mech. There's another mech there as well, but so this is from scratch basically. So part one, we start with a cube, or we start in Photoshop. We start with a design, not a particularly good design, looking at concept art. There we go, and yeah, so that was my starting point. And then literally going in, starting with a cube in Blender, and the first thing I made was a seat. And I did that for scale reasons, and then you can follow all the rest of these video tutorials on how it was made. If you like, you don't have to do that. You can just go into Photoshop and make your sprites there. So how you make your content will be determined by the skill set and tool set of the people in your group. Some of you will want to work in 3D, some of you will want to work exclusively in 2D. Those who work in 3D will then have to render stuff out as still images. So if I look through my camera here, I can press F12, render out a still, and then I can take that still and bring it into Unity and use it in the 2D engine. So I'm just going to drop in the Photoshop here, so kill that's a blank image. I'm going to go File, New. There's one or two other things I want you to ponder before you get cracking on your game. One, it's going to work in a web browser, your game. So this screen here that you're looking at that I'm recording is HD, and that's the resolution of it, 1920 by 1080. So the question you need to ask yourself right at the beginning, and everyone in the group has to agree, is what is the resolution of your game? How big is it? Is it going to be played in sort of a YouTube size window, and that will change the resolution of all your graphics, and how big things can be, and it has quite a huge big implication into gameplay, because you can't have things that are too small, you won't be able to see them. Or do you want it really big, and then you have to make more graphics and more detailed graphics? And it's an interesting question. that's one frame if I'm in HD. And then how big is each level? Are you going to make a level each? And if you're going to make a level each, is a level a single frame? So are you going to make something like, now we've asked you to make a scroller, so something that moves, not something like Donkey Kong where it's a static game level and the camera doesn't move. So let's say width here. So if I make a level that is 4 times the width of what the camera can see, then if I do my maths here, so 1920, let's cheat and get a calculator. So if I have 1920 and it's going to be 5 times that, it's 9600. Okay, so there's my new, that's my level. So the camera, HD camera, will fit in that 5 times. So if I zoom in here, so let's draw my character in this level, roughly. So I'm gonna go layer, new layer, I'm gonna call this character, and I'm gonna draw my mech. Now it's gonna be really crude, so I'm gonna draw a box, and then that's where the pilot sits, and there's a weight thing here at the back, and a leg that has a knee and a foot, and there's a bit that goes down there. Okay, and there's a second leg somewhere. Okay, so that's roughly my character. Now let's zoom back out. So that's how big my character is, and I have to figure out how long is it going to take my character. So if my character walks at this pace, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so am I taking 5 seconds to cross the screen? In which case, if I'm 5 times 5, this level is over in 25 seconds. How long do I want each level to last? And I would say at a guide, you guys shouldn't be making anything bigger than I'm showing you on screen. So 9600, because that's going to be a lot of art before you even get into the game. And one of the things I would suggest to you is that you don't, at this stage in making games and as a group, you don't overstretch yourself and go, oh, everyone will make a 1 minute level and we'll have a 4 minute game. If you have 20 seconds each and you've got just over a minute of gameplay and it's good gameplay, that's far superior than nice art with a clunky, simple, like if it's just a straight line and it takes me 30 seconds to walk the length of it, that's not terribly interesting. If it's a shorter level, but I'm kind of going up and down and I have to go through a door or jump over a pit or I have to do something, then that's going to be far more interesting. The second thing to talk to you about is in terms of level design. I was going to turn off my character here and rename this BG1, background 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to generate my backgrounds in Blender, because I'm going to cheat. I'll make them look much better, but I'll have to make them in 3D, so that's a trade-off. I'm going to have, let's say the mech is outside and it's on a path. So there's my path, and then maybe in the background I'll have a city or a tree, or I actually intend to put it inside, like Jetpack Joyride. I'm going to be inside something metallic and keep it simple. If I turn back on my character here, I'm just going to change color. I'm going to pick green for a reason, because green is the collision detection in Unity. So what I'll be doing is my collision detection will be drawn in the middle of this path. So as I play the game, the character is going to move along the green line, and that green line is obviously invisible. I can just see my game art, but that's how I'll make my game. So it'll appear that there's some sort of depth to it. You know, I'll have this will all be wrong color. So this will all be sort of blacked out and we won't be able to see it. So this path here, whatever it may be it metallic and metal and inside a space station, or be it a mud road, whatever you decide it is, my collision detection, my path that the character's going to walk on, will be in the middle of that. Okay, so that's just giving you stuff to think about. So, nope, I definitely drew that on the wrong level. So yeah, stuff to think about. What's your scale? How big is the character compared to the background? Is it a HD game? Is it a smaller game? How long does it take the character to go from one side of the level to the next, and therefore how long in pixels does that make it? How fast does the character walk? How fast is your game? And then you think back to some of the examples here, like Super Mario. Think how fast Super Mario moves, and how much space you can cover in a very short amount of time, and how much game art is involved in that. And you can see the parallax in the background as he moves, so the foreground is moving more quickly than the background. Yeah, so interesting, lots of stuff to think about. And I would suggest, and what I'll be asking you all for, is sort of like what I've got here, some sort of very crude Photoshop mock-up of what you intend to make before you go anywhere near creating something that has that amount of detail. Because if you don't have this and have a plan, then you can do this forever and end up with pretty pictures but no game. And we want to avoid that. Alright, that's enough for now.